Hello guys and welcome to today's video, and this is the Tropics Around the World episode 3, and we're here going to be taking a look at Tropical Cyclone Halima and something that could or could not be perhaps brewing in the South China Sea. This is Cyclone Halima here, and this is located at 18.2 south, 75.3 east. Maximum winds are at 70 knots or 80 miles an hour. Minimal sensor pressure is at 970 millibars, and as you can see here, it's definitely not looking very impressive right now. It's gotten rid of its pinhole eye for this very disgusting larger eye here, and as you can see, it's really ragged on this presentation here. We got convection, it's very west weighted here, as there has been shear that has been tilting the mid levels and the low levels. Well, practically more mid levels than it is low levels, and you can see the results of that as all this convection is pretty tilted to the west. And this is not going to be, redeveloping or re-strengthening with this kind of look here and this really ragged eye here, if you can even really call it that. It didn't look like it had an eye earlier, but who knows? This is probably a really bad ragged eye here. But yeah, that's what that is right there. Here is the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, advisory. This is the seventh advisory for this, and right now they have it at 85 knots right now. But this looks like it was at 0Z though, so we haven't really gotten the other update yet for the system. So as you guys know, ATCF is pretty much the Joint Typhoon Warning Center's advisory, and they got it at 70 knots. So we're gonna have to see what the 0Z update for Joint Typhoon Warning Center shows for that. But as you can see, it sticks around pretty long, decently in the next 5 days, as it's still 75 knots here at the 5-day time frame, which is 50 miles per hour. Now there might be some chances for re-strengthening down the road, but as for right now, it looks like it's on a weakening trend as we go out through time. All right, so here's the GEFS tracks and minimal MSLP, and as you can see here, we're at 982 millibars, and it steadily weakens as it heads out through the next 10 days. For the foreseeable 4 or 5 days, we're going to be anywhere between the 980s and 1000s before it levels off into the 10,000s in later time frames. All right, so here's the GEPS. Excuse me if I could talk. You can see here that the GEPS is not very enthused about the system. It's keeping it between 990, 1000s, and beyond here. So there's just nothing to look at here when it comes to that. All right, so here is the GFS that was initialized at 12Z today, and it was ran pretty recently, if I remember correctly, like 3 or 4 hours ago. And as you can see here, 11 knots and 67% relative humidity. So the relative humidity is really bad. It's not really bad, but it's bad enough to keep it from not doing too much. Here's 24 hours out, 977. We got 22 knots shear and 53% relative humidity. So this is going to really cap it off right here. And now we go to 72-hour time frame, 995. So now it's really starting to bite the dust here. We are looking at 14 knots of shear, which is so-so, but the relative humidity here is 39%. And that's not going to do it any favors whatsoever in the long run. 96, we're at 998. Once again, it's looking terrible. 16 knots of shear and 39% relative humidity. Now, this shear here, this is definitely going to be enough to bring in that 39% relative humidity into the core of the system, if it even has one at this point. And as you can see, by hour 120, it's just not there anymore. 22 knots of shear and 43% relative humidity. So the GFS is not very enthused with the future of this system. All right, so here is the European, and this is literally a new run that just came out in the last 45 minutes or so. We're going to take a look at the sounding. 18 knots of shear and 59% relative humidity. So that's definitely not a good look right there. But as you can see, it actually strengthens from what it is. So that's kind of weird why it would do that. 20 knots of shear and 45% relative humidity. So this environment is just not with it to really strengthen it like that. So European is definitely like a renegade model run here when it comes right down to it. Here we go at 985 millibars. We got 21 knots of shear and 46% relative humidity. This is not good for the system at all. And as you can see, there's not much moisture with it left. There's some moisture in there, but it's getting overtaken by this 44% relative humidity, which is pretty dry for a tropical cyclone. So that's going to just wane out most of the convection as we head out through time. But as you can see, it keeps it in the 980s for a decently amount of time. 14 knots of shear, 42% relative humidity. We're just going to have to see how that all plays out. And here we are, 120, and it still keeps it as a Category 1 cyclone, which is amazing because, once again, we're at 17 knots of shear, 50% relative humidity, which is not conducive whatsoever for a Category 1 cyclone to withstand. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the not the European, but HWRF here. So you see, initialize at 12 today. We got 979 millibars. We're going to go 24 hours out. As you can see, we're still sticking within the 970 range. We got 8 knots of shear and 78% relative humidity. So HWRF definitely likes this system a lot more than the GFS and the European does. So we're going to go out 48 hours. We weaken slightly to 981 millibars at this current point in time. 21 knots of shear, yes, that'll do it. But the relative humidity is pretty good. It's 82%. But the wind shear is definitely not on its side as we go out through time. 72 hours, as you see, we're pretty much in a weakening, trend here. I don't know how that's weakening though. If we have 5 knots of shear and 70% relative humidity, it should be strengthening a little bit. And as you can see, there's not much left of it at this point, according to the HWRF. 17 knots of shear and 41% relative humidity. Now the shear and relative humidity has cut up to the HWRF at 96-hour mark. And then, I'm not even going to look at the particulars here. As you can see, at the end of the Model 1, we're at 1,003 millibars. All right, so here we are. We're going to take a look at the sea surface temperatures here in the region. And as you can see, we got some decent, the waters are very warm in this area. It's just that the wind shear and the relative humidity is going to prevent the system from tapping into that warm waters and actually, doing something with it. So, right now, if the wind shear and the relative humidity doesn't, get its act together, then this piping hot, bath water is not going to really mean much in terms of, strengthening a cyclone, because the rest of the environment is just not in a conducive state to, take advantage of that. All right, so now we're taking a look at the, rest pack here, because we've had some activity here as of late. We recently had 92W, which, it didn't last very long here, and it dissipated, I think, this morning. But as you can see, we might be something to talk about here in the South China Sea. So we're going to take a look at the GFS here. And as you can see, here at around 72-hour mark, this area of low pressure here is starting to form. As you see, 11 knots of shear and 86% relative humidity. So it got pretty decent, favorability in this area if it's if it can do anything with it. And as you can see, now we're getting down to 999 millibars. So this is definitely a tropical cyclone at this current point in time. And obviously we can't take a look at the particulars at this point unless we take like a small scale, approach here. 7 knots shear, 93% relative humidity, which is pretty decent. And this is definitely a tropical storm here. for these areas in the South China Sea, and then as we go forward, it makes landfall, and I think this is Taiwan. Yeah, Taiwan makes landfall in Taiwan with some pretty decent rainfall, which we will take a look here with the total accumulated rainfall here. And as you can see, some parts of Taiwan here is just going to get inundated with some pretty decent rainfall here. We're talking about an order of 250 to maybe 350 millimeters of rain, which is a pretty decent amount of rain, if I do say so myself. So we're gonna have to pay attention to this system and see if these models uptrend in the precipitation and or the tightness of the system as we go forward to time. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the European, and the European really isn't as bullish as the GFS is, but you can see this. There is tons of precipitation here, and we're going to take a sounding at 72 hours, even if there's no low pressure system here. Okay, we can't do that, I guess. So let's see if we can take a better look here. Yeah, 13 knots of shear and 78% relative humidity. So if we wanted to kick something up real quick, there we go. The low pressure area has picked up on the European here at 78 hours. We're looking at 6 knots of shear and 80% relative humidity. So this could uptrend on the European. And as you can see, now it got a very loosely closed isobar there. So, the European and the GFS are hinting at some activity in the South China Sea as we head out through the next, several days or so. So now we're going to take a look at these sea surface temperatures in and around that area, and you can see that we got 29s and 30s, lined up across the South China Sea, which is pretty favorable for intensification or development of a tropical cyclone. So we can't really take it off the table unless the GFS and completely takes it off, or the European stops into that low pressure area. Obviously, I'm not saying this is going to form by any chance, but the fact that we had 92P, or not 92P, but 92W literally yesterday, we can't take it off the table. That's we could have another surprise here in the South China Sea. So I'll definitely be keeping an eye on this for you guys. I don't think it's going to amount to anything strong or severe. Maybe a weak tropical storm could form, or maybe a moderate tropical storm, but I just don't see anything strong coming out of this as we head out through the next several days. Now it's March 26th, and we're about to be heading into April. April, around the April time frame is when we start to see the real activity start to pick up in the Western Pacific. So we're just gonna have to see how everything pans out here during the next couple of weeks. Anyways, this is it for my update of Tropics Around the World, episode 3. Tomorrow I'll be doing something. We'll see how these models are working tomorrow as well. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a great day.